The sound of a perfect shot echoed through the elite shooters club, followed by thunderous applause from wealthy patrons clad in designer shooting gear. Matthew Carrington lowered his custom Remington, a smug grin crossing his sun-kissed face as the target revealed another bullseye. This was his domain, a place where power, money, and skill forged an untouchable wall between the elite and the rest. If you've ever been underestimated or made to feel invisible, then what happened next will feel especially satisfying the moment the tables turned. At America's most prestigious shooting range, Sarah Collins stood quietly near the entrance, clutching her worn leather purse, her simple navy cardigan, and department store jeans, making her stand out like a lone wildflower amid polished roses. At 35, Sarah was neither young enough to turn heads nor connected enough to command respect in such circles. The receptionist, a young woman with flawless blonde hair and a mechanical smile, barely glanced up before returning her gaze to her computer screen, dismissing Sarah without a thought. "Excuse me," Sarah said softly. "I'd like to sign up for today's open practice session." The receptionist finally looked up, scanning Sarah from her scuffed shoes to her unremarkable ponytail. "Members only," she replied flatly. Sarah remained composed, reaching into her bag and pulling out a slightly crumpled envelope. "I have a day pass." It was a gift. Matthew caught sight of Sarah from across the room, his curiosity piqued. At 42, he was at the pinnacle of his career, 5-time national champion, Olympic gold medalist, and the poster child for Remington's elite product line. Raised in privilege thanks to his family's oil empire, Matthew had been handed access to the best training from childhood. His natural ability and relentless ego did the rest. Well, Matthew called out loud enough for the whole club to hear. "Someone lose their way on the road to the thrift store?" His entourage laughed on cue, their voices echoing off the high-ceilinged walls. Sarah kept her gaze low, moving toward the basic range at the far end of the hall. Rebecca Green, the club's manager and herself a former competition shooter, caught the comment and frowned but chose to remain silent. At the last station, Sarah quietly placed her purse on the shelf, unwrapping a cloth bundle to reveal a standard Glock 19. Serviceable, unremarkable, certainly not the flashy, custom-designed pieces the regulars boasted. Matthew and his friends drifted closer, hungry for entertainment. $10 says she can't hit the target, one man chuckled. "Make it 10,000, Matthew sneered. "I bet she's never even held a gun before." He sauntered over to Sarah, his voice dripping with condescension. "You sure you're in the right place, ma'am? This isn't a craft circle." Sarah met his gaze calmly, her hazel eyes steady against his icy blue ones. "I'm just here to practice," she answered evenly. Matthew's grin widened. "Practice, sweetheart? This is where real shooters come. I'll wager 10,000 you can't hit the bullseye from 50 yards. Sarah hesitated. "I don't have that kind of money." Matthew shrugged. "If by some miracle you make the shot, I pay. If you miss, you leave and don't come back. Deal?" Rebecca approached cautiously. "Mr. Carrington, perhaps you should let our guest practice in peace." Matthew waved her off. "Stay out of this, Rebecca. It's just a friendly wager." Sarah's hand instinctively twisted the simple gold band on her finger, an almost imperceptible movement. "All right," she said softly. Matthew raised an eyebrow in surprise, then smiled triumphantly. "Ladies and gentlemen, we've got ourselves a show." No one noticed how Sarah's posture shifted, how her spine straightened, her shoulders relaxed, or how perfectly balanced her stance became. No one recognized the grip of an expert or the controlled rhythm of her breathing. And none of them knew that the plain gold ring she wore once belonged to one of the most skilled snipers in SEAL Team 6 history. 3 years earlier, Sarah had stood at Arlington National Cemetery beneath a gray April sky, clutching the folded flag against her chest as her husband's casket was lowered into the earth. Master Chief Daniel Collins had served with distinction, a sniper so accomplished his comrades called him the Phantom. The official report claimed a helicopter crash during a classified mission had taken his life. Sarah knew better. Details surrounding Daniel's death were so heavily redacted that even the families of the fallen were left in the dark. Daniel had met Sarah in Vermont while visiting an injured teammate. She'd been working as an accountant, her life as orderly as the spreadsheets she managed. Their accidental meeting at a coffee shop had stretched from polite apologies into hours of conversation, and they married 6 months later. Life as a SEAL's wife meant learning to live with uncertainty, with Daniel's long absences and scars that came without explanations. During one of his longer stays at home, following a mission that left him with a torn ligament, Daniel began taking Sarah to the shooting range. "If I'm going to be gone so often," he told her, gently adjusting her grip, "I need to know you can protect yourself." What began as self-defense training grew into something more, a quiet bond between them. Daniel proved to be a patient instructor, and Sarah turned out to be an intuitive, gifted student. "You've got steady hands, perfect vision, and the calm it takes under pressure," he would say. Their sessions became sacred, shared moments where words weren't needed. Sometimes his teammates would join, and Michael Reynolds, one of Daniel's closest friends, once confided, "Dan's always bragging about you. Says you shoot better than half the guys on the team." The last time they trained together was 2 days before his final mission. Daniel had been more reflective than usual. "Promise me one thing," he whispered as they cleaned their firearms. "Promise me you'll keep practicing. Stay sharp." Sarah had nodded, not understanding then the weight behind his request. After his funeral, she'd locked away Daniel's guns, unable to face them. She relocated to Boston, starting fresh where no one knew her story. Until last week, when a package arrived from Michael Reynolds, a day passed to the Elite Shooters Club and a simple note: "Daniel would want you to keep your promise. 3 years is long enough. Come back to the living." Now, standing before the sneering Matthew Carrington and his bet, Sarah felt the faintest spark of the person she'd been before grief overtook her. She lifted the Glock and muscle memory took over. The world narrowed to 3 points: herself, the weapon, and the target. She inhaled, held the breath, exhaled halfway, and squeezed the trigger. The shot rang out clean and sharp. The target retrieval system hummed as it brought the paper forward. When the target arrived, the crowd fell silent, one perfect hole dead center. "Bullseye." Matthew's confident smile faltered. He snatched the target, glaring at it as if the hole might disappear under scrutiny. "Beginner's luck," he grunted. "Anyone can get lucky once." Rebecca stepped forward, eyes softening with admiration. "That was an exceptional shot, Mississippi." "Collins," Sarah supplied quietly. "Sarah Collins." Rebecca nodded respectfully. "Ms. Collins, perhaps you'd like to try the advanced range?" "Clearly, you're not a beginner." Matthew cut in, his voice sharp. "One shot doesn't prove anything. Let's see if she can do it 3 times in a row at 75 yards. $50,000. Miss even one shot, and she admits she cheated." Gasps rippled through the crowd. Senator Davis placed a hand on Matthew's arm, cautioning him. "Matthew, this is getting out of hand." Matthew shrugged him off. "What's the matter? Afraid she won't get lucky twice?" Sarah weighed the choice. She hadn't come here to be a spectacle. She only wanted to honor Daniel's memory. But the arrogance in Matthew's voice stoked something deeper, a fire long dormant. "I accept," she said quietly. "But on one condition. If I win, the $50,000 goes to the Veteran Support Network." Matthew's eyes narrowed, but he nodded. "Fine. Not like it matters." As Sarah stepped to the 75-yard mark, Rebecca approached again. "Matthew holds the club record at this distance," she warned softly. "No one's beaten his score in 5 years." Sarah met her gaze with quiet determination. "Thank you. But I'll be fine." Matthew played to the crowd, basking in the attention. 3 bullseyes, 75 yards, standard Glock 19. No custom pieces, no excuses. Sarah loaded fresh rounds, Daniel's lessons threading through her mind. When the pressure rises, trust your training. Let your body remember. The range fell into hushed anticipation. Sarah took longer to aim the first shot, adjusting for the distance. Crack. The target advanced. Bullseye. Matthew's smirk tightened. The second shot came faster. Another perfect hit. Before the third, Sarah twisted her wedding band once, grounding herself in the memory of Daniel. The final shot rang out dead center. The crowd erupted into spontaneous applause. Matthew's face drained of color, disbelief written across his features. Rebecca verified the targets. 3 bullseyes. Perfect sequence. Matthew's expression soured. "Rigged," he snapped. "No amateur shoots like that." "She cheated." Rebecca's voice hardened. "Mr. Carrington, we had dozens of witnesses. Her performance was legitimate." Matthew's face twisted in anger. "Fine. 1 week from today. A formal competition. Me versus her. 10 stations, varying distances. Club-supplied equipment." Sarah felt the weight of the challenge but met his gaze evenly. I accept. Same terms. If I win, 50,000 to the Veteran Support Network. Matthew's smile didn't reach his eyes. And when I win, you admit publicly that this was all a setup. As the crowd dispersed, Rebecca lingered beside Sarah. That was either very brave or very foolish, she murmured. Matthew won't lose quietly. He holds too much sway here. Sarah nodded. I didn't come looking for trouble, but I won't back down. Neither woman noticed Matthew already making a call, his tone tight with rage. Find out everything about Sarah Collins. Leave no stone unturned. And so began a week where Matthew's obsession would lead to his own undoing and Sarah's quiet strength would rise to meet a challenge that was never about winning a trophy. It was about honoring a promise and proving that sometimes the fiercest resolve comes from the quietest hearts.